Hello dear students, I hope you are enjoying these video lectures. Aren't they different from the usual way law is revised? If you're enjoying them, then do leave your comments in the comment box. Let us now discuss consideration. Now, what is the meaning of consideration? Consideration means yes, something in return. Do you know the Latin phrase for it? Do you remember? Absolutely right. It is quid pro quo. So, quid pro quo means something in return. Now, consideration should be present for both the parties. It's the most important aspect of offer. No consideration, no contract. In fact, you should highlight an agreement without consideration is void. Okay. How will you define consideration? It is defined under section 2 clause D. Consideration means when at the desire of the promiser. This is one of the elements of consideration, that it must move at the desire of the promiser. So when at the desire of the promiser, promisee or any person, this is the second element. So it must move, okay? It must move at the desire of the promiser. It may be given either by the promisee or any other person. Now, can you relate how the definition and essential elements are connected? So when at the desire of the promiser, promisee or any other person has either done or abstained from doing. Okay, abstain means not to do something. Okay, you have either done, this is the positive aspect of the definition. Abstain, not to do something, this is the negative aspect of consideration. Now let us take examples for both. Let's say that X has offered to sell his flat to Y for rupees 50 lakhs. Now in this case, there is positive consideration to do something. I want to sell my car, I wish to sell my house, I wish to enter into a contract for sale of goods, to do some positive act. That's positive consideration. Negative consideration means not to do something. Like X tells Y, I will not report your crime if you pay me 5 lakhs. So I will not report your crime if you pay me rupees 5 lakhs. This is negative consideration. I will not file a case against you if you pay the outstanding in 2 days. These are all negative aspects of consideration. So yes, consideration means either to do something or not to do. I promise not to do something. That is negative consideration. So the party has either done something, so he does, present, or abstains from doing, okay? So both positive, negative. Or he promises or abstains from doing something. He promises to do, that is future consideration. Then such act or abstinence means not to do something. This is called consideration. So the types are also over here. He has either he does or abstains from doing, or promises or abstains to do something. So all this, or he has done, okay? Has done, does or promises. So let me highlight that separately for you. He has done, that is past. Okay, so this is past. He does, this is present. And he promises, this is nothing but future consideration. So every element is present in the definition itself. So consideration is actually loss to one party, gain or benefit to the other party. It may sometimes result in loss to both also. Now over here, if I apply this statement, X is giving the flat, it's loss to X, but Y is gaining the flat, so it is gain for Y. What is the consideration for X in this case? 50 lakhs. This 50 lakhs is gain for X, but this 50 lakhs is loss for Y. So what is the consideration for Y? It is the house. This house is gain for him but loss for X. What is the consideration for Y? What is the consideration for X? It's money. This money is loss for Y but gain for X. So consideration is loss to one party, gain to the other party. Since every party will get different consideration, our analysis will be separate for both. Now, what are the elements of consideration? Consideration must move at the desire of the promiser. So the word must will come with the word promiser. It must move at the desire of the promiser. Desire means wish. So it must move at the wish of the promiser. It must move because the promiser has initiated that transaction. It may be given either by the promisee or any other person. Okay, so the word must always comes with promiser. The word may comes with either promisee or any other person. Now, to understand both these concepts, we have a case law, Chinnaya versus Ramaya. Students, I have done a separate video on Chinnaya versus Ramaya, so go and watch that. I have covered that when I was explaining stranger to contract and consideration. So please do go and watch that video. Now over here, A, an old lady, by a gift deed transferred property in the name of daughter R. Ramaya on the condition that every year R should pay annuity. Annuity means annually some amount to her sister C. Chinnaya. C is A's sister, okay? Now A gifted some property to R on the condition that every year R should pay some annuity to C. Now what did R do? R prepared a deed in writing. Okay, prepared a deed in writing promising to pay money to C. She promised but failed to pay. So C filed a case. What do you think, students? C would have won the case or lost? So R promised to pay, but then she failed. She's saying that I am paying money. There is consideration for C, but I am not getting anything in return from C. So for me, there is no consideration. It's not a valid contract. What do you think, students? Is it a valid contract? Law says that consideration must move at the desire of the promiser. So over here, is the consideration moving at the desire of promiser R? R is promising to pay, right? So is it moving at R's request? Yes. Must move? Yes. It is moving at the request of the promiser. But law says that all right, consideration may however be given either by the promisee or any other person. So here it may be given either by promisee or any other person. So over here, who is giving the consideration to R? A. So A is giving consideration to R. So R should not be worried. Even though R is not getting anything from C, she has already received the property from A. So since you have received consideration not from C directly but from any other person, it's a valid consideration, it's a valid contract, you have to pay. So consideration must move at the desire of the promiser. So here R had promised, it may be given either by C or any other person. Consideration must be of some value. The word sum shows that consideration may seem adequate or it may seem inadequate. Now if I want to sell you my car for 500 rupees, actual car, Nobody can stop me. They are my goods. I will decide the price. You cannot argue with me that it's not sufficient. How can you sell 5 lakh worth rupees of car only for 500? I'm happy with 500. It has some value, right? So consideration, determining consideration has been left at the option of the parties. But is it never considered? No. Inadequacy of consideration may be taken into account only to show it is considered to show that consent was not free consent. Okay, now let's say that Don forced X, he used coercion and bought the house. Now the house was worth rupees 2 crores, but the Don forced X to sell it only for 2 lakhs. So this inadequacy can be used as a piece of evidence in the court to show that why will I sell my house worth 2 crores just for 2 lakhs? I was forced. So in that case, you can use it as a piece of evidence to show that your consent was not free consent. Only that time it will be used. They say that consideration must be real, not illusionary. Now, what is real? Real means it should be actual. Like X offers to sell rice to Y at rupees 100 per kg. Now over here it is actual, it is real consideration. It's a valid contract. It's a valid consideration. It's a valid contract because it's actual. It should not be illusory. Illusory means imaginary. It only looks like consideration, but it's not. X tells Y, if you cut the grass in my garden, I will give you some reasonable remuneration. Now, it seems like there is consideration. For X, his grass is cut, it is mowed, lawn is mowed properly. What is the consideration for why he will get remuneration? But how much? Reasonable. What is reasonable? It's not defined, it's not clear. It only looks like consideration, but it's not. Okay, so over here it may be imaginary or it looks like consideration, but it is not. This is not valid consideration. It's not valid consideration. It's not a valid contract because it's not real consideration. Now consideration may be past, present or future. Now what is past consideration? It is consideration which has already moved. Okay, it has already moved. Even the key word is even before formation of contract. Students, let us quickly also highlight the things that we have studied up till now. Consideration must move at the desire of the promiser. Highlight, it may move from the promisee or any other person. It must be of some value. It must be real, not illusory, imaginary. And according to time, it may be past, present or future. So these highlighted words will help you to remember the points in the exam. It must, it may, must be of some value, real and not illusory, past, present, future. So past consideration means the consideration which has already moved even before formation of contract. Present means it moves, let me write, at the time of formation of contract. What about future? It moves Yes, very good. After formation of contract. Okay, it's after formation. Now let's take examples. What is the meaning of past consideration? Okay, let me write examples. X asked his neighbor Y to take care of his son for a couple of days because no one was at home and he had to urgently go to office. Y agreed. Now X asked Y to take care of the son. Now Y must have incurred few expenses, no? So X tells Y, I wish to pay you for whatever you have done for my son. Please don't I know you will not charge me, but at least let me pay for the expenses which you have incurred. So he promises to pay for services which Y has already rendered before the formation of contract. So X received his consideration even before the contract. Y is going to receive it in the contract. Present consideration. Let's discuss example for this. X sells a pen to Y. Y pays him rupees 10. Both are getting consideration at the time of formation. It's present consideration. X has promised to bake a cake for Y. He will bake it in the future and then Y will pay him 1000 rupees. So this consideration will be given after the formation of contract. It is future consideration. So what have we studied up till now? That it must be, yes, say it along with me, must move at the desire of the promiser, may be given either by promisee or any other person. It must be of some value, real, not illusory, past, present, future. Consideration must not be something which the promiser is already bound to do. Now tell me, what is the obligation of the police? To find the thief. Now, if I tell the police, if you find the thief, I will pay you 500 rupees extra, will this have any value? Even if you don't pay 500 extra, no, his obligation is to go and find the thief. This is not value, this is not consideration. This is not valid consideration. Okay, what is the obligation of a lawyer? To win the case. For that, he charges fees, right? Now, I tell him I will pay you 10,000 rupees extra if you win the case. Oh, come on, his obligation is to win the case. This is not valid consideration. Even if you don't give it to him, his obligation is going to remain the same. He has to win the case. That's not any value addition. That's not valid consideration. Consideration must not be illegal, immoral, or opposed to public policy. What is the meaning of illegal? Illegal means unlawful. Illegal means unlawful. So let's say X promises to sell drugs to Y. That's unlawful consideration. Immoral, it means it is against our values, beliefs, our upbringing. It's immoral, it's against our morals, good values. Like, say for example, entering into contract with prostitute, giving her ornaments, house on rent so that she could carry out her trade. All that is unlawful. That is immoral consideration. You can't do that. Our society does not allow prostitution activities. So you are giving ornaments. Okay, you are giving ornaments on hire. These are very frequently tested exam questions. It mostly comes on these examples. So you give ornaments, or you may give a flat on rent. So now law says that you will not be able to recover the higher charges for ornaments, you will not be able to recover the rent because all these are immoral activities. The consideration is immoral. Next we have opposed to public policy. Public policy over here means, please write down students, society. So entering into contracts which are against the society, let's say for example smuggling. Yes, it is unlawful. It's against the society. You can also write entering into contract for marriage restriction. Okay, marriage restraint. Let's write that. Or stifling prosecution. We are going to discuss all that. We're going to discuss all that. So, stifling prosecution, entering into contract with alien enemy, whatever consideration is involved that is against public policy, it is void. Students, please ensure that you have written everything properly. And this one. Done? Okay. Please ensure that your notes are complete. This will help you. The workbook can be used as a last minute revision. Sued by third party, the most important part of this chapter, that is stranger to contract. Now law says that stranger to contract cannot sue. Now who is a stranger? Let's say that contract is between A and B. Okay, A has sold goods to B. He has sold goods to B. B promised he will pay money, but then he fails. Law says that since the contract is between A and B, A can file case against B, B can file case against A. Some third person stranger cannot sue. So over here, stranger does not mean that you don't know that person. Here, stranger means someone who is not a party to the contract. So only the parties to the contract can sue each other. If B is not paying the money, only A can file a case. C cannot tell him, oh, I don't have any work. Let me file a case for you. No. Who are you? You're not even a party to the contract. How can you file a case? So stranger to contract cannot sue. Okay. Stranger to contract cannot sue. Let me write it properly for you so that you can copy it. So stranger to contract. C is a stranger to contract. Only the parties can sue each other. He cannot sue. But yes, law says that stranger to consideration can sue. Now the best example that we can take over here is Chinaya versus Ramaya. A, an old lady, transferred property in the name of daughter R Ramaya on the condition that every year R should pay annuity to A's sister C Chinaya. R even made a deed in writing. He promised to pay. He also made a deed in writing. Now, can you tell me, in this example, consideration is moving between which parties? You're so right. You're brilliant. Consideration is moving between A and R. But who's getting the benefit of that consideration? C. Now C is a stranger who is getting the benefit of consideration. So C is stranger to consideration. And please note students, C is not getting benefit just like that. C is getting benefit as a result of an agreement. Therefore, C is stranger to contract and stranger to contract can sue. Sorry, he's stranger to consideration and stranger to consideration can sue. Alright, so stranger to contract cannot sue, but stranger to consideration can sue. Now, what is the difference? How will you know it in exam? See, stranger to contract is a total stranger. He has no contract with either A or B. But stranger to consideration will have one contract. Okay, this is not compulsory, but generally, stranger to consideration will receive some benefit as a result of contract. Now, over here, C had a contract with R that R will pay annuity every year. There is a contract. No, that is why C is stranger to consideration. What if there was no contract between R and C? Then C would have been stranger to contract, and then C would have lost the case. He would have not recovered annuity because stranger cannot sue. So because of that deed, that's very important. Okay, because of that deed, C is stranger to consideration. Exceptions, very very important, students. A theory question can be asked on exceptions in case of a trust. Now let's see, for example, that A and B, their grandparents, they have given, okay, so let me write them together, their grandparents, okay, A and B, their grandparents, they have given money to P to be kept in trust for their grandchild Q. Okay, so A and B, their grandparents, Q is the grandchild. They said that please give this money when the grandchild turns 21. Now over here, A and B have kept the money in trust, trusting P that he will pay the money to Q. Now later on, P refuses to give the money. Unfortunately, A and B died. P is refusing to give the money. Law says, Q, even though you are stranger to contract between grandparents and P, contract is for your benefit, right? You are the beneficiary. Even though you are stranger, you can sue. It's an exception. But ma'am, you just said that if you want to file a case, you should have a contract with either parties. Here Q is not having a contract with either P or AB. Then how come he can file a case? How is he filing a case? See, it's a trust. In exam, how will you know that this is an exception? They will give, the word trust will be given in the question. That is how you will understand. Even though he doesn't have a contract with either of them, he can still file a case because it's a trust. Trust is not given, then you will say that he can't file a case, even though it is for his benefit. So in the exam, they will give it to you. They will expressly say that it's a trust, and you will say, can file a case. Okay, the next is in case of family settlement. See, I'm highlighting the key words. You also highlight. First exception, trust. Second exception, family settlement. Now, X and Y, they have decided to partition their business. At the time of partition, they have agreed to contribute certain money for the maintenance of their mother. They promise, but then later on they fail to contribute. Over here, mother, even though she is a stranger, she can sue. Why? How come? Because the contract is for her benefit. She's the beneficiary, she can sue. In the exam, they will mention it's a family settlement. In case of certain marriage contracts. Now, let's say that some money was kept aside for the marriage of a female. Okay, these are all the male members of HUF. They had kept aside certain money for the marriage of a female. Now, even though they have partitioned their business, the settlement is generally between the male members, but over here, the female member can enforce the money which was kept aside for her marriage. She can say no, even though the contract may be between you parties, you may have created that money. I can file a case because it is for my marriage. I am the beneficiary. Assignment of contract, that is the next exception. To assign means to transfer. So let's say that X transferred his benefit to A. So he's saying that instead of me, you take the benefit. So the person to whom we have transferred the benefit is known as assignee. Now if assignee is getting the benefit, he will also get the rights, no? Even though he is a stranger, he can sue because he's got all the benefits assigned to him. So since we have assigned the benefit, we have also assigned the right to file a case. So even though he's a stranger to contract between X and Y, he can still file a case. Estoppel by acknowledgement of liability or part performance thereof. The key word is estoppel. Now what does it mean? X gave money to Y to go and give it to Z. He says, you take this 1,000 rupees, give it to Z, okay? Now Y calls up Z, he gives acknowledgement. That listen Z, I'm holding the money for you. You let me know when you reach home, I will come, I will give this money to you. Now as soon as Y gives acknowledgement, law considers him as an agent of Z. You are holding the money for Z, you're agent of Z. What if later on Y fails to pay the money? Can Z file a case? Now see students, X and Y, they have entered into a contract that you will give money to Z. So there is a contract over here. Z is a stranger. But since Y has given acknowledgement, he's the agent, stranger is the principal. And principal can sue. He can file case against his agent. So if Y refuses to pay, Z can file a case even though he's a stranger to contract between X and Y. So students, this example is very, very important to you. It is very important for you. So write it very clearly and properly in your notebook. In the workbook. The next exception is covenant running with land. Now, what is the meaning of covenant? Covenant refers to the conditions attached to the use of land. Now, let's say, for example, I have left space so that you can write the example. X and Y, they have decided to use a land for agriculture only. So the land can now be used only for agriculture, cannot be used for any other purpose. These covenants, they are binding on current as well as future owners. They are binding on current as well as future. Now let's say that Y sells his land to Z. Even Z has to abide by those terms and conditions because the land is burdened with those conditions. It comes along with that. What if later on, okay, after Z buys, what if X started using the land for commercial purpose? If X has started using the land, Z can file the case even though he's a stranger, even though he did not create those covenants. Stranger can sue. Contract with agent. Okay, yes. Can you tell me, does the agent enter into contract for himself? No, it is for the principal. Now, agent promised to sell goods to a debtor. Okay, some buyer. Buyer is not paying money. Agent can file a case, but since the contracts are entered in the name of the principal, principal can also sue the debtor. Even though principal is stranger, contract was entered between agent, but agent is entering into contract for the principal only, no? So principal can sue. Even though he's a stranger, he can sue. He can enforce the contracts entered by agent. Students, just check whether you have written everything correctly. Okay. You can always pause the video, take down notes, and then continue. And the last part. Okay, done. Next and the last part is no consideration, no contract, and exceptions. This is the basic rule. Okay, so you will write this is the basic rule. No consideration, no contract. But it has its own set of exceptions. Under these exceptional cases, even though there is consideration for just one party, it's a valid contract. Now, this is covered under section, you can write down 25. Okay. So when the agreement is based on the account of natural love and affection, students please highlight natural love and affection. So this is how you will remember the points. These are keywords. Now, what are the conditions to be satisfied? There are 4 conditions, all 4 are important. So let's write and practice. If the contract is in writing, okay, the contract is in writing, it is also registered based on natural love and affection between parties who are in near relation. I'll write it as I said, between parties in near relation. What will this include? Husband, wife, blood relation. So what is the requirement? It has to be compulsorily in writing. It has to be registered also. It has to be based on natural love and affection and between parties who are in near relation. Near relation, you can write down. It includes husband and wife and blood relation. Now law says that X promised, okay, he's the husband. He promised to pay 50,000 rupees per month to his wife as pocket money. Now law says that wife is getting consideration 50,000 but husband is not getting anything in return. There is no consideration for the husband. See, peace of mind may be one of the conditions, but it is not accepted by law. Law says it's okay if it is in writing, registered, based on natural love and affection between persons in near relation. It's valid even though there is consideration for just the wife. See, even though this is domestic, students, even though this is domestic, but it's in writing and registered, no? So there is enforceability. Okay, so this is no longer domestic. Agreement to compensate for past voluntary service. There are many terms involved here. Past voluntary services. Clear? Now, what are the conditions to be satisfied? The first condition is that the person must have done something voluntarily. The services should have been rendered for the promisor. This promisor must be in existence. When the services were rendered, when services were rendered. And the fourth requirement is that the promisor must intend to compensate the promisee. If these conditions are satisfied, then past voluntary services will be a valid contract. Let's say, for example, that X found the purse of Y. He returned it to him. Y then promised to give him 500 rupees as reward. Okay, he decided to give him 500 rupees as reward. Now in this case, X has voluntarily found the purse of Y. Yes, he has voluntarily found the purse of Y. That act is over. Then later on, Y promises to pay. Now in this contract, there is consideration for just X. Y is not getting anything in return. Even then it is a valid contract because you are promising to compensate for something which you have already received in the past. Students, this is not past consideration. In past consideration, the act will move at the option of the promisor. Your Y is not asking X to find the purse, X is doing it on his own. That is why it is past voluntary service. Next exception is promise to pay a time barred debt. Now, what is a time barred debt? It is a debt which is like so old. It's over 3 years old. 3 years have expired. A had to pay 10,000 rupees to B. It's been 5 years. He has not paid, and even B has not taken any action. This debt after 3 years becomes a time barred debt which is legally not recoverable. But what one fine day A comes and tells B, I will pay. Okay, so he comes, let's say, after 5 to 6 years. After 5 to 6 years, he comes and says, okay, I will pay. Now, in this case, he's promising to pay. So there is consideration for B, but A is not getting anything in return. Even then, it's a valid contract. So law says that, okay, no, if he's in promising in writing, okay, that's very, very important. This promise must be in writing. It must be signed by either promisor or his agent. And the third requirement is that it must relate to a time barred debt. Then yes, if these three conditions are satisfied, even though A is not getting anything in return, it's still a valid contract. Students, are you slowly realizing the benefit of writing and practicing? Don't you think that Prayas is a very innovative way of revising law, something that you have never seen? You revise, you learn accounts by writing and practicing. Maths is done by writing and practicing. Then why not law? So don't you think that this is some very unique and refreshing way from revising law as compared to the methods that you were following earlier? If you really feel that, if you feel that yes, writing and practicing has made a change, now you're able to remember better, slowly you're becoming more confident, then please leave your comments in the comment box. I will really enjoy reading your experience of Prayas. Let us continue and wind up this unit very quickly. The next exception is in case of agency. Now, law says that no contract, in fact, no consideration is required to appoint an agent. So, you don't need a contract, you don't need a consideration. When he sells goods, that time we will give him consideration. As of now, I need not give him anything. Completed gift. This is very similar to charity. Okay, now I promise that I will give you 5,000 rupees if you clear the CA exam. I've just promised. I haven't given anything, nor have I received anything. It's just a promise. Law says this is not valid consideration. It's not a valid contract. But what if I give the gift? Now I can't expect return gift, no? See, we ask, that's another story, but we can't. So completed gift means gifts which are given. They are valid contracts. Because you can't expect something in return, right? So it is a valid contract even though you are giving but not getting anything in return. The same logic applies to charity. Now, X promised to give 5,000 rupees in charity. He can't say, now what will I get in return? So, charity given, that's valid even though you're not getting anything in return because you can't expect. So, this completed charity is a valid contract. It's very similar to gift, it's like the same only. What about promise, I will donate 5,000. Have you given anything? Have you received anything? No. Then this is, write down, not valid consideration. It's not a valid contract. What is bailment? The meaning of the word bailment is to deliver. The person delivering the goods is known as the bailer. The person to whom the goods are delivered is known as the bailee. Now, over here, bailee doesn't become the owner, he is just a caretaker. Let's say that X bailed his goods to Y for safekeeping. Okay, he said, you please take care of the goods for like 2 months. They are best friends. Now, X asks Y, okay, tell me, you're taking care of my goods for 2 months. How much should I pay you? Y says, you're my best friend. I'm not going to charge anything from you. So, law says it's okay. Even if there is no consideration, it's still a valid contract. So, over here, even if there's no consideration, even if he's giving the services for free, it's okay. It's not a valid it is a valid contract. Okay. So, bailment, here I'll change the ink. It is valid. You have to write this in exam, okay? It is valid even without consideration. Okay, it is valid even without consideration. So even if there's no consideration, he's your friend, he's keeping the goods for free, it's a valid contract. Students, with this we have come to an end of our another revision lecture on consideration. In the next lecture, we will start with other essential elements of a valid contract. But before going, do leave in the comment box your experience of revising law in a very unique and refreshing manner. If you feel that my effort is something very different, it's a unique experience, then do leave your comments in the comment box.